Here we have it. Game 6 of the Grand Finals for Day 1 has arrived. And if you've missed the first 5, well, just strap in. Let's close this one first before you go review it, because there are so many explosive moments and victories that have already taken place here. Honestly led by the likes of Kanata and Cooper. From what we've seen, they've had some of the biggest highlights of the day. But first, we kick things off with the action here at the Mount Olympus. We have Boogan Agers who were dropped just last game right here, having a very, very slow start in general, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, you want to talk about Day 2 teams, but Day 2, a lot more pressure, if you ask me, MDF. And a lot of these teams would rather close things off with a solid finish here in Day 1, but Cold, he's already on the ropes. Acorn eliminated by the likes of Krizix. Yasir and Krizix tend to be the two that pose the most threat to Cold and Acorn off the initial drop here at Fencing Fields, because they are another team that likes to try and play for that vault nearby. But again, Krizix likely very happy with that successful elimination at the start, because even with Cold reaping the benefits of this vault initially here at Fencing, trying to make his escape as a solo, that's why he's just forced. He's crouch walking around the map now, trying to get some form of stealth going for himself, but this is looking like mission impossible just about here for Cold.
At least one thing we don't have to worry about is, you know, we'll see Cole and Acorn at the Global Championships. They'll be all right. So even if this FNCS hasn't quite chalked up the way they expected it to for Day 1, it's hard to pull up a performance like you've done in the previous seasons being this contested. I mean, they've proven that it's possible before, but you can see it is not easy. Every season, you are just matched up with new and more challenges. Yasir and Krizix continuing to put in work, and if it's not them, it's Muzz and Paper, right? Which we've seen also have their moments here. When we talk about moments of greatness, Threats and Sphinx have been playing quite the day of Fortnite, right? They're up there at the top 10, fighting for top 5s, it does seem like, with 198 points. So all in all, very much a contender for a top 3 position, a podium finish as we start rounding out this weekend. But it's all gonna come down to this fight first here, up against Dragon and Poppy Blast.
Dragon and Poppy Blast have essentially been on tour Day 1 here today.
Yeah.
We've seen them at like several different drops now ever since that initial response towards losing that immediate contest up against the likes of Clix and Epic earlier on today, but now faring against Threats and Sphinx, doing an okay job so far. I mean, a surprise con, never in the cards for most teams, but it's something that a well-established team like Threats and Sphinx are bound to be prepared for, and sure enough, they've got some bite back here. Dragon and Poppy probably don't have as good of knowledge of Brawler's Battleground in comparison to Threats and Sphinx, who have been landing here much more often. Threats, quick wings tech, close some distance. He's got Dragon isolated. Poppy Blast also incredibly low on shields, but Dragon has no shields whatsoever. He is down to his white HP. Some shots from way across the way though. Threats recognizing the fact that he's been targeted as easy surge for another team here. They will find both eliminations though onto Poppy Blast and Dragon, but it does come at a cost. Threats likely a little bit annoyed by that team, a little bit further north from Brawler's Battleground. Looks like Zeus and Pikes are gonna be the ones that were laying some fire into Threats' HP.
That's pretty interesting, because last game Zeus and Pikes were up at the Mount Olympus for their drop. So it does seem like a lot of teams just trying to, you know, deploy new strategies here in the final game right now. Jumping to a curve in Tyler, I mean, they need to go back to their original strategy. Forget new. What has gone wrong for them is the last 2 games they've fallen short of the end game mark, not earning any points actually. So something's got to give for this duo if they want to have themselves a good FNCS. It's not too far gone though, like we talked about. Day 1 is your foundation. Day 2 is where you jump in that rocket ship and you take off if the opportunity permits it. Look at this. Skittles and Trashy up against the juggernauts of NA. Pewterbot. Boyo there in the distance. They do what they do best though. They light you up. If they don't find, you know, the opportunity to siege on the moment, they just back off. They find the next person on the rotate. It's a very interesting type of playstyle, to say the least, but I think it fully revolves around whether or not they have the full advantage, and if they think they do, I mean, you're probably as good as gone.
To be fair, though, it's a very familiar situation. Peterbot and Pollo have clashed a decent amount with Skittles and Trashy, even throughout semis. In the upper bracket, we saw more often than not Skittles and Trashy kind of just forcing Peterbot and Pollo to a halt. They are no rollover team in terms of box fighting, and Peterbot and Pollo, I mean, game recognizes game. They don't want to go for reckless charge-ins where it's not deemed a true necessity for them. And speaking of reckless encounters, here at the Underworld, Aiden, Hound. Aiden already incredibly low. Count that, knocked entirely. Hound can only watch in terror as Zero closes in on his teammate now. He's just looking for an escape by any means necessary. Gonna pop a little bit of Flowberry Fizz even to help him try and rotate even further away. Maybe he'll get an opportunity to lap back around, dip back into the storm, pick up Aiden's reboot card, but does seem relatively unlikely at this point.
And just all around questionable decisions right there. But hold up, Peterbot and Pollo fighting for the towers here. You can see the NPCs already spawned in. It's Chance and Aaron here. Chance and Aaron, who have had a successful amount of points earned so far today, netting themselves inside the top 20, have quite the challenge here in front of them. If they decide to stick this one out, an ego fight for the tower. Look at this. You can see Peterbot, the micro steps, staying ahead of the storm for just as long as possible to try to buy them some time. And now the medallion swap to go and cap off, and I'm thinking they realize, yeah, we don't have enough HP. We have a ridiculous lead here. It's probably time we back off, and Peterbot makes the decision first. I think it's the right call.
Also, worth noting that the current record for day one this weekend is 423 points from Oshi. Peterbot and Pollo have a very real chance, depending on how this last game pans out, to break that here in NA for day one. Sitting at 410 points currently, they only need 13 more MDF, and all they've realistically got to do is stay within placement range. Maybe get 2 or 3 eliminations, something we've been seeing them do all day today. But it's sealing the deal where things can get a little bit more difficult. Regardless, still looking comfortable in that first place position. Comfortable with something that Pars probably wishes he could be in. He drops momentarily from height. B-Dog, Victor, understanding the fact that they've forced Pars and Baka to retreat only slightly, but trying to play it from the low ground. These are all wood builds that are currently coming into play. It's bound to draw some attention from elsewhere in the lobby. Baka and Pars aren't careful.
Baka and Pars are gonna go ahead and slide out of the danger zone there. Seems B-Dog put up more than enough defense there to earn the respect. Jumping in with Ritual, Muzz, and Paper. You have a little 2v2 standoff right now. And honestly, Reed's loadout couldn't be looking more better. He's got plenty of heals here, and it does seem like a couple trades go down here to earn himself some damage, and that's enough for them to go ahead and move on and start capping back off that material. No need to get too deep into the weeds of it and start cutting into that metal. That'll really be where the problem starts to forge for this team here.
Curious on what their surge currently looks like, though, because with the zone pulling a little bit more towards that center map territory, teams that are playing more towards the outskirts, more towards the edge of zone, it can be difficult for Reet and Ritual to have a real opportunity to actually establish a solid surge strategy. So I think that's part of the reason why we see them trying to break away from the direct POI, Brickless Railways, try to search a little bit more towards those outskirts. But again, a lot of these teams, a lot of these players, even if they're left as solos, they're just trying to box up and play it as safe as possible, because even if you haven't necessarily had the day one that you'd envision for yourself, you can still set yourself up for a strong day two performance by closing day one out in a respectable fashion.
This is where things start to get really serious for Kanata and Cooper right here. There's no room for error, no time to drop the pace here. And quite honestly, pressure's on for them more than any other team in the lobby, as Peterbot and Pollo effectively have so much of a cushion established with how many points they have that Kanata and Cooper, if it wasn't already quite noticeable that they need a lot of points, but they also just can't drop it for themselves. That's that global championship is on the line here. But jumping over Peterbot and Pollo, that's what we talk about with no pressure in the world. They look for the most favorable battles. They want to close them out just like this, quick and smooth. They find Edgy here. Aiden and Hound, the same team they saw earlier, lurking closely, but not too much of a threat. And honestly, Peterbot's keying in that direction, so they're telling us everything we need to know about how they want to play right now. I think we're seeing them likely chase those big numbers.
Again, 423 points. That's what they're looking to beat. They are well within striking range. 11 points left to go. Excuse me, make that 10. Quick maths here on the NA side of things, but Batman Booga Rapid, this has got to be the worst position to find yourself in, because Peterbot, ample amount of medkits, 3 of them to count. And that Waterbending Mythic as well just gives him so much leverage from keeping Batman Booga and Rapid at bay. They're not going to be able to find a very easy rotate, and that's part of the reason why we see them come to a halt. They're hoping that Peterbot and Pollo are instead going to look to keep pushing forward. One disadvantage that Peterbot and Pollo do currently have is that it's a long trek to make it towards zone. Yes, they're trying to heckle some of the other teams along the way, but their priority is definitely fixated on just making it into zone.
So far, so good right here. Sphinx and Threats, though, deep in the storm right now as well. This is to the southern side here. You have Zeus and Pikes up top, and Threats up there by himself right now. I'm more curious as to why Sphinx hasn't gone up. Feeling that this is a dangerous position to be in nonetheless, but there it is. So Threats actually ends up coming down instead. They have medkits, they have bananas. Should be okay, and yeah, okay. Luckily the team moves on, but not too far off.
Smart rotate though from Sphinx and Threads. They're gonna opt for the dead side. They might have it all to themselves. At least it'll be a much safer rotate because only Zeus and Pikes directly above them. Sphinx and Threads, I think, making the right decision here to keep rotating along the dead side of this mountain face here at Mount Olympus.
Take a look at the highlight, though. Rapid and Batman Booga, one of those few teams we saw being pushed by Pollo out there in the storm, finds an elimination onto Hound. The 110 just destroying what was left of Hound's HP there, giving them more points there. Rice and Bolts secure this Rift Island. And they do it comfortably with no resistance here. You can see very rarely does someone capture the point without any cones above the base, so no one even looking to step foot up here. But I think that's just a telltale of the storm here, as it's pulling far north right now and continuing to go that way.
Yeah, keep in mind that Rift Island also practically spawning right above where Brazen Bolts like to drop in the first place. Dumpton has him because they love having the opportunity for a potential weapons bunker, potential forecast tower. Clix definitely does not love this current situation he's caught up in, though. No Epic with him either. It's all down to Clix to clutch this one up against the likes of Z-Link. And he's got fire coming in from a couple of separate angles. Big tag in response from Z-Link. Quick halt towards Clix's quick attacks. But Clix, he's gonna follow. Lavish Lair. This engagement going on maybe a little bit longer than Clix had been hoping for, but at this point, it's his only option. He might be able to reboot Epic if he can take down Z-Link.
Yeah, I like the aggression here, especially while he was under the effects of the, the mythical banana, giving him the health advantage and honestly alleviating the pressure of having to worry about the storm. But getting to the zone first there, getting to this reboot van, he'll be able to get this quick pickup, put him back in the game. This is game 6, the last game for day number 1 right now. You're watching Clix and Epic Whale likely to be picked up here, but no, canceled, and Clix Shouldn't have faked it. I think he should have committed, but now it's all or nothing, and into the box he goes, and Z-Lynx wins the trade. They say pros don't fake, and that is exactly why you don't do it for good reason right there.
I really want to know how close Clix was to finishing that. Skittles elimination onto Neko. Unlucky, but I really feel as if that reboot van could have potentially been stuck there by Clix. Still, decisions. I respect the commitment either way. Clix went with his gut in that situation. He opted to drop it and go for the 1v1 challenge. It happens to the best of us sometimes. We'll see what day 2 has in store for Clix and Epic Whale. But for right now, it's all about Pars and Baka. And whether or not they continue trying to push back some of these other teams just outside of Reckless Railways, hanging out on the edge of zone, but right next to them in a surge base of their own, Pollo, Peterbot. We saw them with a long haul run from across the map just about. The fact that they're this close already, it seems their prioritization of just making it towards the zone has definitely paid off, because they've got their choice of the pickings from those teams trying to scurry into the edge of zone.
What's crazy about that? That wasn't even Peterbot or Pollo's base. They just like broke their way into it and took someone's
That's
old
mine now.
surge base. Yeah, it's theirs now. Pretty insane. Meanwhile, Mixon and Paco, you know, if you study their gameplay coming out of the semifinals where they did perform well, this is a lot of what it looked like. Early and dead side rotates, trying to find themselves in prime high ground positionings. Very textbook. You can see it's been paying off pretty well for them, minus the couple of games where they got shut down in the mids. Look at this. Zone is going to pull down this way. So far, they are in the most optimal position. Actually, do they get the forecast tower? Because this is looking suspiciously strong as far as positioning is concerned right now. High ground, it's like we've seen this before.
There could have potentially been a forecast tower that they might have opted to go for near Lil Villa, which is the split that Yamzo and Rise like to opt for by Hazy Hillside Tunnel. But again, whether it was their direct acquisition of the forecast tower or not, Mixon and Paco have definitely found themselves some prime real estate. Peterbot and Pollo, 418 points now, by the way. This is an excellent position for Peterbot and Pollo to set a record for day 1 performances in every single region. Their point count, they only need just a little bit more. 423 is the mark to cross. And this is a relatively healthy looking Peterbot and Pollo MDF.
Yeah, that elimination was huge for them, not only for the damage, but the material counts. They ended that one really quickly. And where Paco and Mixon gave up their positioning, a new team steps in. It's Curve and Tyler looking desperately for a fight right now. 3 games now, they've had surge issues. Not sure what has gone differently or wrong for them out of the first 3 compared to this backstretch, but it has been really bad for Curve and Tyler, and it seems like the pressure settles in here as NPen, or excuse me, Sphinx and Threats just mow down Tyler, and Curve is likely to get followed up shortly afterwards. This is 7th place versus 12th, mind you. It's just not looking good right now for Curve. I mean, he can't run away. Yeah, you need the damage or it's over.
Definitely no escape. And part of the problem for Curve and Tyler, I think it's less so what they're doing wrong and more about what everyone else is doing right surrounding them. Initially, they were getting some early encounters with Booga and Agers. But after like the second lobby, Curve and Tyler, they started straying a little bit more north from their drop east of Mount Olympus, finding themselves getting tangled up with Chimp and Scissor over at Summit Temple, Summit Base Camp area where Chimp and Scissor like to drop. And they're just not winning those exchanges. They're finding themselves behind on Surge, almost hesitating in a sense with some of their fights. And that's just part of the adaptability that comes into play with the Grand's lobby. These players all function at such a high caliber of play that even the slightest slip up is all it takes for some of these more experienced teams, I think, to try and capitalize and punish. And that seems to be the case more often than not here for Curve and Tyler. But Hopefully it doesn't disorient them too much heading into day number 2. They at least got half the process right at our starting point of the day. They just need to try and replicate that, and more so for day 2.
Endgame's within reach now for Kanata and Cooper here. 194 damage above the surge, and Boyo is desperately hurt here on the edge of Storm. Pressure coming in. Little does Cooper and Kanata know that that is the right decision to make right there. Singling out the teams here on the edge of Storm. But they let up the gas, and Boyo finds an opportunity now to bounce back into it, but not before this next duo comes in from the low ground there. And Peterbot opting to get out of there. He wants to make a move here for some safer positioning, more high ground. Has to be careful though now. Even closer to the likes of Cooper and Kanata here, but safe nonetheless here on the edge of the Storm.
They may have just delivered Cooper and Kanata a prime opportunity.
No
Pawn
heals.
feeling. Pawn was incredibly low though, but yeah, Peterbot and Boyo definitely wish that they had some heals right about now. They still have that aspect of agility to split between each other. And here it is, Kanata taking note. It's Muzz. Oh, unfortunate. Can't get his way across the water. That's gonna be a knock. Thermal scope on the DMR. Very problematic for so many pros trying to rotate in. And this zone pull as well,
no.
Monster. Pretty vicious.
Oh, this is a bad zone. Not only is it a bad zone for, you know, Kanata, Cooper, it's bad for Peterbot, Boya, but, you know, they have the medallion. They'll be able to dash around the outskirts, and I do think they're already on the move, but Baka and Pars are very much in the top of the standings. This is probably going to be the end of the run for them if they don't get any further. As I was outlining it, you see it. Dusted in chalk there. They're gone. They're down. They're out. That's top 3. Set up. Still a phenomenal performance nonetheless. It'll put them on the standings, gearing up for day 2. Oliver OG falls here as well, and this is just claiming its toll here now in Kanata from one fight into the next one. It's not going to be easy, and they have a lot more teams here to fight through as this is going up the high ground now. There's no avoiding it.
I'm still not going to count out Kanata and Cooper, though, after what we witnessed from Game 5. We've seen them in a very similar situation in Lobby 5, and yet they still managed to make it work. All they need is one player to not recognize where they're currently situated. They just need some materials, a refresh of any sort, no matter how it comes by. But the acquisition of such a refresh, the odds of it are definitely looking slimmer and slimmer with every second that passes by. And as soon as this next zone pulls, this is brutal for even Cooper and Kanata.
Boya just got finished right there, and now it's up to Peterbot here. He's got his medallion, he's got no HP. The heals with, though, the 180, and just deletes Finks to keep him in the game. Clutching up out of nowhere, and the siphon material acquired as well, giving him just enough math, but then Cooper falls as well. And this is what we talked about, that being such a difficult rotate. It wasn't just gonna be difficult for the likes of our first place team, but it was gonna be difficult for every single player on the north side of the zone. Peterbot now 33 HP. As you can see, he is not indestructible, but he is still so very hard to take down right now. Utilizing all of his Flowberry Fizz, that's showing us that he is desperate here to have any advantage in any moment. He takes down Reet on the move there.
Disgusting what Peterbot just did to Reet. Reet never even had any idea of what was coming, but that refresh, God tier currently for Peterbot. Reet had so many goodies in his loadout, and Peterbot more than happy to snag up every single one of them. Those splashes as well. Gonna make sure that he can keep targeting from that backside of the zone. He's trying to make his way towards front, though, through the low ground. He might actually catch up to where Kanata is at. It's only a matter of time, but first, Kanata has to deal with all the players currently surrounding him. Sees one opportunity, but the solo makes his way out of Kanata's clutches. Peterbot, another one, onto Iyamzo even. 4 eliminations. The solo performances that we have expected to see so far, and Kanata, unfortunately, the lights have turned off. Ritual finds a similar fate. It's all Peterbot just trying to hold on here.
And let this be a lesson of how much of an advantage that medallion of agility is giving a player like Peterbot right now, allowing him to get from position to position before teams even realize. And honestly, it's working out so well for him as he's approaching nearly 500 points. We're inside the top 5 right now, and he is still alive.
They don't let him win this. Surely, there's still a couple of duos left standing.
Oh my
Peterbot
gosh.
from behind.
Oh my
Bolt
gosh.
in his sights. Bryce and Bolts, though, will turn the tides against Peterbot, but so much damage having already been applied. Bryce, easy pickings now from Mixon and Paco, who are waiting on the low ground. Bolts trying to do what he can, scurrying around the builds, gets a knock onto Paco. That forces Mixon as a solo situation. Blake and Mackwood, they've been relatively quiet all day so far, but this might just be their one. This is their game. To close out the day, Blake and Mackwood, they found the performance that they needed to because they were definitely needing that jump in the leaderboard.
Respects to Blake and Mackwood finding their moments of greatness, not only in game 1, but to close out the day strong here in game number 6. This is just day 1 of the FNCS Grand Finals, really giving us a sample of the weekend, of course. And my, oh my, what a performance from everyone there at the very end to really, you know, keep things interesting for us here at Taco.
For a moment, though, it really looked like Peterbot was about to pull it off. I mean, if it had not been for Bryce and Bolts getting that quick flick turnaround onto Peterbot, we might have been looking at a different situation entirely because, as you pointed out, that aspect of agility, definitely difficult to work against. But Mackwood and Blake, we saw them from the high ground. Nobody else really had an opportunity to look up. Even when they ran out of builds at the end, they still had done more than enough damage to get the job done.
Take a look at the reaction, the pop-off from Blake. Like we said, they played very, very well to kick things off. They were inside the top 5, and now they get to close out with a victory royale. Respects to Blake and Mackwood. I'm not sure if we've ever actually caught Blake in recent times pick up an FNCS victory like that during a grand final settings, so that's going to be exciting nonetheless there for us, Taco.
Yeah, it's been an awesome day 1 so far, but MDF, that's going to put a wrap on our day 1. 6 awesome games, 6 games for Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly to break down.